So if you want to just go right to it, you were working at a doctor's office, what, a few blocks
I
from
was managing Dr.
Managing.
Rothschild's office at that time.
Rothschild?
And I remember when we got the word, everybody in the doctor's office, and the office was full. And oh my God, is this going to come out on the radio or something? I don't really have that much to say, honey.
Okay, so what do you, just tell me about that day. Well, your feelings. Tell me how you...
Well, the waiting room was full of patients, like it always was. Dr. Rothschild was a very, very fine, what's the doctor for the heart?
What, cardiologist?
No, huh?
A cardiologist?
Yeah, he was a very, very well-known cardiologist and diagnostician, and I worked for him for several years. And when we got the word, I was sitting at my desk in my little office overseeing the waiting room, and the people we all started crying and screaming and yelling, and I ran back to tell Dr. Rothschild, and he was with a patient, and he just quit doing what he was doing, and it was just a bad day for everybody.
Wow. Did
You
you...
could hear people screaming outside, and
Yeah.
the only story I really have to give you, and I don't know if I'm entitled to do this, but I have the story of one of the nurses who attended JFK that day.
Was she a nurse with your practice?
No, she was the little girl who played in our gang comedies, the little brunette. You'll have to look it up and get her name.
Okay.
She was in Hollywood for a number of years. She made a couple of movies with Betty Davis, and then she got tired of Hollywood, and she came to Dallas, and she was working for the doctor upstairs, and we became friends. And I don't exactly remember how it happened, but she was in Parkland Hospital when they brought him in, so she was one of the nurses who attended him.
Okay.
I wish I could remember her name, but I can't. And she used one name for the movies and another name after she became a nurse. She went back to her
Okay,
original
she didn't
name. I
use
don't
her
remember
stage
that
name.
either. She's been dead for many, many years.
Okay.
So I don't know what else I can tell you.
So did she talk to you about it? Did she tell you?
She talked to me some about it, yes. Of course, it was a horrible experience, and she was a fine nurse, so she was very touched, not only because he was a patient, but because of who he was. We all loved JFK. We all loved him. You know, it was very unusual for us to have a Catholic president.
Yes.
And when JFK got it, that he and Jackie were really, they were Camelot. That's what we called them. They were in Camelot. They were such a wonderful couple. And they went through so much. She went through her 2 or 3 pregnancies that didn't develop, you know.
Right.
And he was gone, and he was seeing other women.
We heard those stories.
You know those stories, I'm sure.
How old were you then? How old were you?
Well, I don't know. I'm 91 now, so
Okay.
what would that
We
be?
could figure that out.
My math isn't as good as it used to be,
Okay.
even though I've had 3 businesses of my own when I was
Okay.
young.
Were you married? Did you have children that you needed to explain this to?
At that time, I was married, and my son, I have one son, and he was in Jesuit high school at that time, getting ready to go to Stanford. What year did this happen to Jay?
63. 1963.
And I went to Europe the following year.
You did.
And I remember walking down the streets of London. I was going to the beauty shop to get my hair done for some reason. And this gentleman came up to me and said, "You're from the colonies, aren't you?" And I said, yes, I am. He said, where about in the colonies? And I said, Dallas, Texas. And he said, oh, that was JFK, where he was assassinated. And I felt like he'd plunged a knife into my body because I thought, is that the only reason why people know Dallas?
Yeah.
It ruined my whole day.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, did you have any other connections? Did I think John mentioned that Jack Ruby, was that Jack Ruby's doctor, or
I
Dr. Roth?
never had any personal connections with any of the people involved in this.
Okay.
I was like everybody else. I read it in the paper or heard it on. Do we have TV then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well-
Walter Cronkite was the
Walter Cronkite. Okay.
was the main, and then you had local you had local news, the Dallas Morning News, right? And yeah.
Yeah. And the Herald. We had the Herald there too, didn't we, Mike?
Yeah. Fort Worth.
And that's really about it, honey. I don't know what else I can. I'll have one more thing.
What's that?
Would you like to see a copy of Jacqueline Kennedy's necklace?
Yes. I'd like to see the real thing.
I would too, but it's in the Louvre.
Do you? The real, well, do you have a copy? Can we get it for you?
Would you like to see it? Really?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Of course.